Hi, good afternoon. My name is Kenneth Ripito, and I'm here today to tell you about how I reported fraud at the Greater Los Angeles healthcare system in West Los Angeles. It's a VA hospital. As a very young child, most kids are frequently asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" At the age of 8, my response was, "An engineer for the government." You can imagine the confusion this caused, frequently prompting the follow-up question, "Why is that?" Oddly enough, my interest in math spurred my response, "I am going to make a difference in the way tax dollars are spent." Although I initially dreamed of turning my engineering skills into those of a NASA astronaut, as fate would have it, I was destined to be in hospital facilities management. I gravitated toward the VA, perhaps following in my family's footsteps, as my grandfather was the first merchant marine to receive a burial in his local federal cemetery. My uncle is buried in the Punch Bowl in Honolulu, Hawaii, the Puawaina crater, and my father and my youngest brother are veterans. My service to the United States was not in the form of military duty. November 16, 2011 would have been my 11th anniversary as an engineer for the United States Department of Veterans Affairs. In February 2011, I received a commendation for outstanding performance. In fact, for each of my 10 years of work as a VA engineer, I received outstanding ratings on my performance appraisals. I am truly proud of my service and dedication to the VA. Unfortunately, on August 12, 2011, my career suffered a tragic turn of events. I started working at the Greater Los Angeles Healthcare System Hospital as a construction manager in January of 2008. It was not long afterward that I began witnessing what seemed to be favoritism towards several contractors not listed on the VetBiz website of eligible service-disabled veteran contractors. In December 2009, I reported to the VA Office of Inspector General, the OIG, that a project had been taken away from a service-disabled veteran and awarded to a company that was not a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. That's SDVOSB in government terms. In March 2011, I discovered that several companies that were not service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses were being awarded contracts, even though the federal government required these contracts to be awarded to a service-disabled vet. Furthermore, the awarded non-veteran companies were not listed on the VetBiz website. I was told they were indeed on the list and that I should look them up using their DUNS number, yet I could not find them in that manner either. The Chief Construction Contracting Officer replied to me that he could also not find these companies. This same contracting officer is the one that suggested and required the award of the December 2009 project previously mentioned to the contractor whom I reported. I continued to witness that these select few non-veteran companies were still receiving contracts set aside for service-disabled vets. I reported this to the OIG, my supervisor, and filed for whistleblowers protection. However, instead of verifying the allegations I made that potential fraud was happening at the VA, my supervisors terminated my contracting officer technical representative duties on March 30, 2011, immediately following my report. I was never told why my duties were revoked. Even after this reporting, VA employees continued to defend the contractors I had reported. I was harassed and moved to an office away from my coworkers. 2 weeks after the initial report, I was informed by the Human Resource Employee Specialist on April 6, 2011, that we're trying to figure out if you should be fired. I was given a letter that same day, dated March 25th, from another VA contracting officer that recommended my COTAR duties be revoked, instead of thanking me for bringing up all the wrongdoings I was observing and or suspecting were occurring at the VA. On May 19, 2011, I was issued a proposed removal letter, and on May 26, 2011, I was issued a letter barring me from the facility. Again, both letters from Human Resources, signed by the Chief of Facilities Management. The removal letter was prompted by several VA employees, witnesses to the same observations that I had made, supporting the non-service disabled veteran by informing them that I was reporting on them. One of the contractor's employees wrote to VA management that he had heard through VA employees that I had been looking for evidence against the company. Ironically, the message was written using the parent company's email address, the non-service disabled veteran, and signed as the company that was not listed on the Veteran Biz website. This evidence was used against me for dismissal, which I turned around and reported to the OIG as evidence for my case against the contractor faking being a service-disabled veteran. All of the harassment and letters were retaliatory and aimed at restraining my right to report what I had observed and believed were violations in direct infringement by the administration of the hospital of 5 United States Code 2302B8. That's the whistleblower law. Instead of removing the threat of dismissal, the facility made the decision, issued to me on August 11th, that August 12th, 2011 was my last day. Yes, I got 1 day notice. After the March 21st filing of whistleblowers protection, I never received the protection against the harassment and wrongful termination. In fact, because I was terminated during the process and the review of my case, the Office of Special Counsel attorney dropped my case and closed it out. I was dismissed while on sick leave granted to me under the Family Medical Leave Act due to the harassment and anxiety my coworkers and supervisors' threats caused me. The Merit Systems Protection Board had 4 months to make its decision of my appeal of the dismissal, and they did it within 4 months. The federal judge mediating the case and negotiating my dismissal tried to put me back into the same job with the same harassers. I continue to fight for the change necessary to allow service-disabled veterans the fair competition they deserve and the sole source contracts Congress intended for them to be awarded. The congressional hearing of July 28, 2011 indicated that change would be forthcoming. The vetbiz deletion of 70% of their database the week of September 20th, 2011 was a step in the right direction, but we still have more to do. And how did the service-disabled veterans recoup the more than estimated $13 billion that went to those 18,800 companies now deleted from the database? The contracting officers in Network 22, Long Beach, California, continue even after the congressional hearings, the OIG reports, my termination, to award contracts to fake service-disabled veterans. In fact, I reported fraud again last week that a contractor not verified through vetbiz.gov was awarded yet another contract. And the contractor that I reported the first time, they were kicked off station after 15 plus years, but not off their contracts. They have started doing business under a new name with the same players, non-veterans, and seeking contracts as a service-disabled veteran. And of course, the VA continues to award on a daily basis contracts to non-service-disabled veterans. So, I ask you to stand up with me and fight for the freedom that the veterans have provided us.